Welcome to Bold Talk series where creativity, leadership, ideas, and innovation come together. My name is Ludvik, and today I have a privilege to have a short one-on-one conversation with two great friends of mine, Bonnie Harvey and Michael Houlihan, the founders of the Barefoot Spirit. Bonnie and Michael, great seeing you both. You look great. Welcome to our Bold Talks. How are you guys doing? We haven't seen each other for a long time.
No, it's been much too long, Epi. We're so happy to be back with you and talking business. It's our favorite subject.
Yeah, it's why we like you, Epi.
Well, I'm so blessed to have a great friendship with you guys. I remember I got to read a book from a Jeffrey Hazlitt book, and I came across your story that he captured in his book, and then I reached out to Bonnie, and that's how we connected. And one time I said, "Hey, Bonnie, I'm coming to San Francisco. Love to meet." To say, "Yeah, you can come and stay at our house." And here we are. We're so blessed, and I'm so grateful.
He thought I was out of town that week.
No.
Yeah, so this is great, and I learned so much from you guys. The world is blessed to have you guys and sharing your wisdom and your experience. And your book is just incredibly amazing. It reminds you a lot of those roller coaster rides that I've gone through, but what you guys went through with your business of the Barefoot Spirit and wines, it was just incredible. So, can you share the inspiration behind the Barefoot Spirit? For those who are not familiar with your story and the brand, just give us the some beginning and how it ended up being in the such a great brand globally.
Well, we started with no money and no knowledge of the wine industry. And over a period of 20 years, we built the fastest selling wine brand, Barefoot Wines, in the nation. So after it was acquired, our staff, our former employees, and people that we've done business with as well, said, "You've got to write a book. You've got to share your knowledge with other people because you had so many innovative ideas, because your staff, you didn't have turnover for about 7 years. So everyone was happy working there. Barefoot became more and more popular, and we want to know how you did it." So we wrote The Barefoot Spirit, and that became a New York Times bestseller. And it has stories in it, not a list of do's and don'ts, but interesting stories. And we turned it into an audio book too, didn't we, Michael?
Yes, we did. And, we have actors and actresses playing the parts with sound effects and music. So it's an exciting way to learn about business. It's not as Bonnie says, it's not the prescriptive text. Here's the 3 things you got to do, the 5 things to never do. It's not like that at all. So you wonder if we're going to make it. You wonder if we're going to get arrested.
I wondered if we were going to make it.
Or go bankrupt, right? And I mean, that's the way business really is.
Yeah.
But the Barefoot Spirit is the spirit behind the Barefoot brand. It's like somebody says, "That's the spirit," or "I really like the spirit that you have," or, how you execute that. You have a certain spirit behind you. And our spirit was based really on the moniker. If you see a barefoot print on the beach, you don't know if it's a man or a woman. You don't know if it's gay or straight. You don't know if it's a Catholic or Protestant. You don't know if it's black or white. All you know is that that's the imprint that a human being makes on the earth. So this is a very universal, very inclusive image that we used for our brand, Barefoot Wine. And so once we sold the brand and wrote the book and became speakers and teachers about entrepreneurship, we naturally took the idea, the Barefoot Spirit. And so that's how we got the words, the Barefoot Spirit, as a moniker for our business style. And that's basically what we're selling today is this is a way that you can do business. It's a style. It's a philosophy.
Yeah. Well, it's a spirit that's still there. You can feel it. You can see that there is is in you, and the power of sharing that you guys are doing is just incredible. There's this old saying that say the graveyard is the richest place on earth. And the reason why is because there's so many people died who never shared their wisdom, they never shared their experiences, never shared their ideas. And so you guys are doing just incredible work. And I do remember when I first met you guys, we were talking about the how you can empower your team going forward with the sales that are meaningful, that bring in this brand that you guys created, the brand that is so accessible that, you know, for so many years, like people will just go and buy the wine and they pretend they know something about it, or they get intimidated by all those chateaus. I remember that conversation we had with you, Bonnie. Now, because we're talking about also the leadership and ideas and innovation, the Barefoot Spirit is associated with a unique approach to business. What are the core principles of leadership that you believe have contributed to your success?
Go ahead.
Well, I think the number one core value, it sounds old-fashioned and corny, but put yourself in the other guy's shoes, you know, basically the golden rule. But it is not something that simple. You have to take a look at what that rule means at every level of business. So you take a look at business and you say, all businesses have at least three levels. You know, they have the suppliers, they have the employees, and then they have the customers. And each one of these groups has to be treated a different way. But what weaves its way through all three is the truth that you have to have their best interests at heart. Mm-hmm. So when you're dealing with your supplier or your financier or your investor, whoever it is, you've got to know what they're looking for. You've got to know what makes them feel comfortable. And you have to talk to them in those terms. When you're talking to your employees, you have to know what's important to them. Yes, money's important, but also recognition is important. And also free time is important. And also security is important. So those are the kinds of things that you have to know in order to work with your employees. And then as far as your customer is concerned, you know, he's worried, am I going to get stuck with your goods and services? Are you going to be there to support me? You know, what kind of help am I going to get once I buy your product? And you know, they're not buying your product so much as they're buying you. So they're actually looking at what is the morality behind this product or service. You know, can I depend on it? So that's a very short answer of how the Barefoot Spirit applies to business. So yes, you put yourself in the other guy's shoes. How would I like it is the question you have to ask yourself.
And we also didn't have paid advertising. We went right to the customer, the end user, by sponsoring and supporting the nonprofits in their neighborhood. And we would make little neck tags, little notices, and put them in the marketplace around where this nonprofit fundraiser was taking place, and put their message, the nonprofit's message, in a place, the marketplace, that they didn't have access to. And that way that the community could support this nonprofit and also support Barefoot Wines, because we were supporting their causes. So we could get the word out without paid advertising by going to small nonprofits, community fundraisers, and getting their groups to support our product because we were supporting them.
Yeah. Well, you know, that creative approach is something that got you that growth and success. That a lot of the times, like I see a lot of people are looking for the creativity, but I always say the creativity follows commitment. Without commitment, there's no creativity. And truly, you guys have committed to the Barefoot wine, making the great wine and making it very accessible. How many times, just tell us, because, you know, obviously everyone goes through these stages of entrepreneurship. It's very hard. The wine business is even harder because, you know, it's highly competitive. You're competing with so many different wines from in different regions. tell us, Michael, how many times do you have to recommit over and over to see this thing through?
Well, yeah, every morning. Okay. You know, there's a lot of no's out there. You know, people are going to tell you no, especially when you're doing something new and different, especially when you are addressing a market that maybe the buyers haven't recognized yet. For
Mm,
instance, we were addressing the Tuesday night wine market, the wine market that was the everyday drinking wine market, not the Saturday night brag a bottle type wine, but everyday drinking wine. And that turned out to be mostly females. It was like 75% females. Now, the buyers in those days were mostly males. And so they were looking at things like, well, what's the appellation? You know, well, what's the vintage? You know, and is this vintage designated? And you know, all those kinds of terms, which are great. But what she wanted was wine that tasted the same. And she wanted to taste the same from day to day and from year to year, which meant that we had to do some blending to achieve that. But in the process of being new and different and creative and addressing this market, now we ran up against the gatekeepers who didn't know how to deal with us. They were saying, well, we can't take this wine because you don't have a vintage date on it. You have to have a vintage date. You know, you have to have this, you have to have that. And that's because of the way they were thinking. So Barefoot was really the first wine to break the rules. But, you know, like any icebreaker, it takes an awful lot of horsepower, you know, and you move really slowly. And every morning when you get up, you have to say, okay. So one of the things I did to keep myself kind of jacked up is I would look for what I called strategic allies. So these were people who were doing other creative things and maybe they were having trouble and I would work with them. You know, there was you in Europe, you have a big company called Aldi, and they had a formula in America called Trader Joe's, and it was new. They only had like 3 stores. But you know they had nets on the wall, and you know they wore, you know, the guy who was the head of the store, he wore a captain's hat, and you know the clerk was like the first mate, and they had this nautical theme that they were bringing in goods from all over the world. And so most of the people in the industry said, oh, those guys are crazy, they'll never succeed, right? So we went to them and we said, hey, you guys are crazy, we're crazy,
So
let's work together. Well, 250 stores later, we work together pretty dang good, you know.
Well, you know, this is the power of a squared number, right? So when there's 2 crazy people come and collaborate together, it's much bigger than 4 people working separately. And that goes on. Oh, God. This is amazing. So lessons, right, from your experience at Barefoot Wine, that applied to a wide range of industries. What kind of lessons you can bring to different industries? Obviously, now you're not in the wine business. You are in the actually. What's really amazing, like you took an idea from when you wrote the book from a written a physical book to a theatrical audio book. Tell us a little about that in terms of the innovation. You take it to the next level.
Yeah.
Well, the innovation of the book was really kind of natural. We were on a speaking tour, and we of the audio portion of the book, we were in the speaking tour. Everybody was wearing earbuds, and we said, well, we've got to get our message. All the hard lessons that we learned, we didn't want to die with them in our head. Okay, we wanted to share them. And we saw when people were using audio more, well, that's when we had to put our book into an audio book. And a big lesson that we learned, everything that we learned really applies to many businesses, but we learned that a buyer doesn't just buy your product. The buyer buys your service. They're looking for good service, and they're looking for a product that is reliable. Yes, but they're looking for someone who can supply them with what they need in their market. So if we're talking about a retailer, the retailer, our salespeople would be an assistant buyer to the retailer. And I think that's more important than being a salesperson. is standing next to, in other words, putting yourself in the other guy's shoes again, standing next to the buyer and saying, what do you need in your store? What's working? What isn't working? Where is your community coming from? What are their needs? And everyone working together. And that is a real formula for success.
And I just want to add to that and say that as far as the audiobook is concerned, it is described as a play. So we're not just sitting there telling you about the 3 things, the 5 things, a prescriptive text. What we're doing is we're taking you on an adventure ride. So you get the feeling just like we do. So Bonnie, why don't you show them the book and I'll give them the, and everybody that's listening, we got a little present for you.
Yeah.
Everybody that's listening, you can go to www.thebarefootspirit, just like the name of our company, the name of our book, thebarefootspirit.com. And you'll find a free chapter that you can download to your phone and listen to. It's about a half an hour long. You'll get a big kick out of it. You'll see Michael getting kicked out of offices, and you'll see, the bank trying to foreclose on us, and you'll see the problems that we have and how we have to learn how to get around them and through them and over them. And the Barefoot Spirit is really about how to overcome problems. And when you talk about, what it is that we learned that other companies can learn from, it's in this book. Everybody who's read this book says, wow, I can't wait to use this back at the office. I want to plug this in.
Well,
And,
this book, it's amazing. I probably bought maybe like minimum 30 of these books to friends and people that I know, at minimum, I would say. And and we will make sure we'll put the link on the channel when it's ready.
Yes.
This is truly amazing. Now, the journey, obviously, through the whole wine business that you've been through. How do you manage to maintain a strong sense of purpose and vision throughout, even today, in the journey that you're in right now, with all the challenges that we're facing, the negativity around? How do you manage this, to maintain this strong sense of purpose?
well, you have to believe in your own principles.
Mm.
And so when Bonnie and I met, before we ever got into business, and to this day, we're both conservationists. We're both trying to save the planet. We're both humanitarians. We believe in human rights for all. We are big on education. We want to see people get better at what they're doing. And so those are principles that we applied in the Barefoot wine brand. And everybody who worked for us, they became a better person. Once we sold the business, they went off, they started their own businesses. They became managers in other businesses. And it's because they learned how to learn, and they also learned how to tackle problems. And that's the big issue. It's like, how do you deal with the problem? And what we did is we said, okay, we had what we called the Barefoot approach to problem solving, which is, basically 5 ideas. One is, okay, let's take the 10,000-foot view. Let's get out of the box. And the quickest way out of the box is straight up. So we go up, and what do? We see what other people are doing out there, and we see how the problem affects other people. Then we look for strategic allies. Who benefits if we solve this problem? And then we look at other industries, and we say, how did they solve this problem in other industries? So again, we're getting away from that narrow view of things. And then what we do is we throw all our problems out on the table, problems that aren't even related to the problem we're trying to solve. And the reason we do is because we realize that the elegant solution is a solution that solves more than one problem. See? So when you take a look at the elegant solutions in business, in the world today, they solve a lot of problems. It's one thing, but it just hits a lot of targets. And then the last thing we do is we let it simmer. We don't sit there and stay up at night and worry about it and whatnot. It's like Perot says, we let the little gray cells do their job. And that's what you have to do. You have to just look at all the parts, then give it a good night's sleep or go on a vacation.
Love
One
it.
time we went to Hawaii for 2 weeks. We came back with an incredible solution. And we didn't even think about business the whole time we were there.
Love it. Well, elegant solutions. I love that. And if I may have your permission, I will love to use that as a part of a conversations that we have here at Bold Talks and the Crowdsourcing Week as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank
It's
you.
part of everybody working together because you have to rely on people to get anything done. So when people realize that they're part of a team and that you're all working together on the same goals, then that helps any problem be solved. You've got to realize you have, fellow travelers, other people that benefit when you benefit. People succeed if you succeed. Like our suppliers, the more we sold, the more supplies that they'd be able to sell us. So they would grow. So we had a wonderful relationship with them, talk to them on a regular basis, talk to them about our goals, our challenges, our opportunities, and how they fit in to our success plan.
Yeah, that's incredible. Question, what does bold mean, a word bold mean to you, Bonnie? And then we go to you, Michael.
Well, first of all, it's stepping out of the box. You can't be doing what everybody else is doing and be called bold. It's happened before, okay? Bold is doing something that you feel in your heart, so you've got an emotion behind it, and that will not only benefit you, but it will benefit a lot of people. Maybe it's your employees or your fellow travelers or the whole world, the whole planet, and working together in an innovative way, being creative, making the best use of the resources that you have, yourself, your company, your community, all for the good. That is bold, comes from the heart.
Well said. Well said. What about you, Michael?
Well, I think bold is really venturing out, as Bonnie says, after something you believe in. But even though you may not have the financing, even though you may not have the education, and being humble enough. So part of being bold is being humble enough to say, I know I don't know it all. I know I need to get help here. I need to get expert advice. So being bold is admitting to your own shortcomings and having the humility to approach experts hat in hand and say, I need your help over here. The other thing about being bold is you have to have tenacity. You can't give up. If you believe in your idea, maybe you have to ask a different day. Maybe you have to ask a different person. Maybe you have to ask a different way. See, maybe you have to listen more. Maybe the low-hanging fruit is somebody that you never thought would buy your product. You never even addressed them, but you're bold, which means that your mind is open. You believe in your product. So you're kind of surprised by who buys it first, right? It might not be who you think. In fact, it wasn't for us. And it isn't for many of our friends who are successful in business. So it takes a while for the people that you've designed your product for to really appreciate the fact that they have a problem. So being bold is also being a missionary. You're not only selling a solution, but you're telling them that they have a problem. So you have to sell them on the idea that they have a problem. And they have to see the problem the way you see it because your solution solves it. So I like to say, you talk to them until they tell you that they have a problem.
Wow.
And so, ask more than say, listen more than talk, find out what the other guy thinks his problem is. You'll be surprised,
That is so true, and you just confirmed that for me today. I was going through that thinking about who have I not talked to, or who I have talked to, but I have not addressed it in a proper way with the right question. I truly believe that the quality of the question determines the quality of the outcome, and you said it so right.
Thank you.
Well, my friends, I would love to talk to you all day long, but this is a short format. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys soon in California or wherever in the world. Always be bold, my dear friends. Congrats on all of your achievements and the work that you guys are doing. You are a blessing to this planet Earth, and I wish you all the best. And you are just a great inspiration for many people, not just in your age, but for young generation to be great leaders. Until next conversation, take care, be great, God bless, and be bold.